Personality psychology. Real or not so much? The first thing I'll talk about is whether this is real and how we know, and then go into a little bit of information about how it's useful for you individually as a person and understanding yourself, and then talk a little bit about how it's useful for understanding and interacting with other people and teams. So there's an ancient debate in personality psychology. Some people say it's all nurture, some people say it's all nature. As with most things, the answer's somewhere in between, and according to recent science, mostly looking at adopted children and identical twins, scientists can know 100% for sure that it's actually about 50-50. What this means is that 50% of our personality traits come from our environment, from our upbringing, our culture, and the other 50% are just genetic. By personality traits, what we're talking about are tendencies, where, for example, you might look at more data before jumping to conclusions, where somebody else might just immediately jump to conclusions and almost not even need to know if something exists in reality or not. Whether somebody gets more of their energy from spending a lot of time with the book or from going to parties is a classic example. And everybody does do everything, but by knowing the kinds of patterns and tendencies that you and other people have comes great power. A lot of these personality traits have come together in a system based on Carl Jung's work, now known as Jungian Typology, that's offshot into a lot of different areas, for example in Myers-Briggs and socionics in Eastern Europe. And what this framework does is actually apply archetypes to people, and it's a model that I like to use a lot in analyzing personality psychology, and what you'll see a lot in this channel. According to this framework, that there's certain kinds of people that essentially get energized by different kinds of ways of thinking and processing information. And I really like this theory because I think of it something kind of how ant colonies and beehives operate, where in those sorts of colonies you have specialists, and that because they're a very strong community, the society excels because everybody does the jobs that they're good at. Now, people, our biggest advantage is our advanced communication that we can use with our intelligence to work with other people and build things that are bigger than ourselves and stand on the giants of our ancestors, create really powerful societies and new information. But along this route, something that's really come out and has proven itself in a lot of societies is division of labor. This is taught a lot in classical economics, but it's essentially the idea that not everybody is going to enjoy everything or should do everything, that we're going to have the highest output if people focus on doing something that they're specialized in. A really simple example is in a tribal society. Imagine if one person's a hunter, one's building houses, one's taking care of the kids. If everybody's just mediocre at all of those things, then at some point the kids are probably going to die. You're not going to get enough meat to eat, and the house is going to cave in and kill everybody. But if people focus and specialize on each of those tasks, then the hunter is going to consistently get food, the kids are going to turn out awesome, and we're going to have really cool houses. So over many thousands and thousands of years and generations of existence, evolutionarily, as part of our survival, we've actually grown into these archetypes. And you can see these patterns through the Jungian typology. And through this power, by understanding, according to these ancient myths and narratives and archetypes of people, like where you fit in and where your general tendencies lay, gives you a lot of power to understand yourself, understand others, make friends, have fun, and kick ass at life. To know more about the Jungian typology framework, there'll be another video on that. But for now, I want to talk about how this sort of information is actually useful to study in the first place, and starting at why is it useful to know about yourself. A really important thing to consider is that the way that we view the world is completely subjective and from our own point of view. And it's really important to kind of be able to take off the glasses and look at what the kind of glasses are like that you're seeing the world through, because that's going to completely alter your perception of reality. For example, even just taking this laptop. I look at it and I think about maybe how much does it cost? Is it the newest model? Somebody might think about, oh, is it a certain like social status kind of symbol? Somebody else thinks, oh, it looks pretty, that's a nice design. And there are 1,000 different questions that we can ask about everything, and everybody's having an entirely different experience of reality, and even existing in an entirely different reality based on the kinds of information we're perceiving, what we're taking in. So by knowing the kinds of questions that you're biased to ask, you understand that you're actually just one point of many in a different field, and by having that sort of power, you know that you can exist in different kinds of points, gather different kinds of data, and be able to work with other people and understand their perspectives and gather all that information to be able to make good decisions. If you're curious to know about your archetype, you can download the GameTree app or go to our web app, and we actually have developed what I think is the most accurate personality test in the world for assigning types. According to the official Myers-Briggs organization, people are accurately typed about 50% of the time. But our test, so far as I can tell, out of a sample size of about 30 people whose types I'm very confident about, we've got about 80% accuracy. So if you want, you can look at that and then also check out reference videos elsewhere on this channel to learn more about your type and why people might want to be friends with you and how to make friends with you, and vice versa with other types of people, and advice to getting along with other kinds of people as well. A big side benefit once you have this sort of information is you understand your strengths. You can have a lot of self-validation in what you're doing, knowing the kinds of areas of interest you might want to have, and you also get a lot of awareness of your weaknesses. And these weaknesses are usually things that we just neglect or they're not fun, but they can come as tidal waves when we put them off for too long. And these tidal waves have a really big effect on our lives and put us down a lot. For example, with me, something that I've learned by studying this a lot, and there's a lot of people like me, is that I'm horrible with sensory details. I am a very intuitive thinker. I connect the dots, but I don't actually see the dots themselves a lot. And what this happens in me and a lot of people like me is that I'll often jump to conclusions without seeing enough data. I'm bad at maintaining things. I won't fact check enough. I'm obsessed with gathering information and seeing the abstract patterns. So now I've gotten a lot better at life knowing how to balance this part of myself, either through maintaining friend groups and relationships with people who are really good at keeping me accountable and remembering stuff, having a better system of remembering to-do lists and how to organize things, and even just having awareness that I'm so bad at this stuff. I'm a lot more particularly focused on being aware of information, like if I'm at an airport or in a new city, about even just navigating around my physical environment, because I spend so much of that time otherwise in my head in kind of an abstract, spacey, imaginary land. So as you can see, once you understand all this sort of information, there's a whole plethora of sorts of ways that you can navigate and adjust your life. And this also applies to other people. For example, I give criticism to people because I love receiving criticism. I view it as a way to self-improve, to get external points of information. And so in a way, to me, criticizing other people and being criticized is almost like a form of expressing affection. But for certain kinds of people, criticizing them is just horrible. It's just a personal attack. So by being able to understand other people and knowing what their personalities are like, you can adjust your strategy to communicate more effectively with people. So I've come to understand that certain people it's good for me to criticize, and that for other kinds of people, for example, Anna behind the camera right now, she doesn't like the criticism, so it's better to really sugarcoat it or to give a lot of positive encouragement along the way. And even in the GameTree team itself, we have a lot of the similar types of people to me who like to give criticism, and they've learned how to interact with people differently, and the amount of conflicts we've had has drastically shrunk over time, just being aware of this information through paying attention to our personalities and our psychologies. An example of how this is useful is even within the GameTree team, I use this in onboarding people. And out of a team of 11 people, it's been 2 years now and nobody's ever quit the company, because we're aware of how to interact with each other, and also knowing that people who are signing up for the kinds of work that they're going to be doing are actually naturally inclined to enjoy those kinds of work. An interesting note and a beautiful thing underlying all of this multiplicity in personality and psychology is being able to appreciate the diversity in life. Because the tribe is stronger through diversity. It's not just a saying, but it's actually true. Because if everybody has a hammer, then every problem is going to look like a nail. But life is complex and big, and by putting together all of our toolkits and the right tool at the right time, that's how we ascend beyond anything that any individual one of us is capable of doing alone. This applies to friendships, families, personalized businesses, and on so many different dimensions. So also check out other parts of the channel. I really encourage you to get into this stuff to be able to understand other people. What do they think like? How do you make friends with these people? Why do you want to be friends with them? So that you can work together and live a much more deep, enriching, fulfilling life. So if you want to get started meeting these kinds of people, you could start looking into your own daily life. You could download the GameTree app, take the test, and within that app actually we've made a way for you to meet people and be able to filter by personality type. If you're curious to meet certain kinds of people or to make friends in general through gaming, then I really recommend trying this out. In the framework we use for explaining personality psychology, you'll get a sort of 4-letter code, and each of the letters means different things. You don't have to worry too much about the letters. We have videos explaining everything. But if you want to go deeper, then we'll have another video following up explaining what those letters mean. And just as a little side note, the framework is actually much more complicated, and it's actually a code to decipher a lot more deeper information. But it's not the sort of thing that you really want to know about unless you're willing to invest a lot of time into this for diminishing returns. But otherwise, this is a great place to jump in, start, and get a lot of results really quickly. Thanks for watching. Let us know what you think in the comments below, and subscribe if you want to see more content like this in the future. See you next time.